Hey YouTube, it's Lycathal. It's finally arrived. We've been waiting and debating and contemplating for months, but it's finally arrived. The nerf to basic and classic cards. In some ways, I've been more excited for this than I have been for the new cards that are being released in Whispers of the Old Gods. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First one is Force of Nature. I don't think any of us are really that surprised about this. Druid combo has always been a problem for Blizzard. Specifically, charge minions are a problem for Blizzard. So this has changed from a 6-mana spell to a 5-mana spell, and changed from summon 3 2/2 treants with charge that die at the end of the turn to summon 3 2/2 treants. They don't die. So you get six mana worth of value in a 5-mana card. It's spread out over 3 minions, so it won't see a ton of play. Most likely in aggro druid, egg druid, a few things like that, just to have extra minions that people have a little bit of a harder time getting rid of. I don't think it'll see a lot of play, but I think it'll still see some play, especially in the arena. Next card, Ancient of Lore. Minor nerf here, but an important one. It's still 7 mana, it's still a 5/5, but instead of draw 2 cards or restore 5 health, it's now draw 1 card or restore 5 health. Minor change, but an important one. Personally, I'd like it to be maybe 1 mana less, making it a 6/5/5. However, since you have the versatility and the potential for healing, 7 mana is still probably about right. So, hurts a little, but still playable, and I think that people will continue to use it. Next up is another Druid card, Keeper of the Grove. This one I was slightly surprised to hear about. I think it got nerfed a little bit too much. So it is a 4 mana 2/2 now, instead of a 4 mana 2/4, with the same effect, so deal 2 damage or silence a minion. I think that I'd want to see some slightly different stats, maybe making it into a 3/2, maybe making it 2/3, something like that. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly what I'd do. Blizzard seems to think that silences should be a little bit more expensive, and tech cards in general, it seems, should be a little bit more expensive. So I can see Druids running maybe one of these instead of an Ironbeak Owl, but probably not more than that, because now it's a little bit more of a tempo loss. So that one will still see some play. And in the arena, yeah, it'll still see some play, but not as much now. Another card that we pretty much expected would get in nerf is Big Game Hunter. So Big Game Hunter has the same effects as before, the same stats, but now instead of 3 mana, it's 5 mana. This isn't the direction I was hoping it would go. Having it go up to 5 mana is okay. It makes it so that you can't combo it with playing your own large minion. It'd have to be another 5-drop at most. And 5-drops aren't necessarily a large minion. So right now, it is, you play a Big Game Hunter to say, kill a Dr. Boom. And then if you're on turn 10, you play your own Dr. Boom. Which, it is a little bit too much. You have a 4/2 body, you've destroyed a large target, and you get to play another large minion. With this, it's nerfed it a little bit. Personally, I was hoping that with all of the large minions that are coming out of Whispers of the Old Gods, the effect would be changed. The stats and the cost would stay the same, but the effect would be changed from destroy a minion with attack of 7 or more to perhaps destroy a beast, keeping it in line with, being a big game hunter, or perhaps dealing a certain amount of damage, 7 damage to a minion with attack 7 or more. Still killing a number of them, but if it's a large enough minion, then it doesn't necessarily die. So I'm okay with this nerf. I wish it went slightly different, but I think it's still okay. This next one, I don't think anyone was really considering. Hunter's Mark. So instead of being a 0 mana spell to change a minion's health to 1, it's now a 1 mana spell to change a minion's health to 1. It'll still see play. It'll still see a lot of play, especially because we are getting more large minions in Whispers of the Old Gods. But it is technically a nerf. I don't think it hurts hunters that much, but it's there. I said it. Now, speaking of nerfs that we were discussing earlier, silences. Ironbeak Owl. This one surprised me a little bit. I suspected the Blizzard wanted to nerf silences, but I don't know. At the same time, I was still surprised to see this on the nerf list. So, still the same effect, still the same stats, but instead of 2 mana, it's now 3 mana. I don't think this actually really does anything. And here's why. 2-drops are great. 3-drops have always been sort of this awkward spot in the mana curve. 3-drops haven't had the most powerful of effects, except for Big Game Hunter originally. And a lot of times people will end up playing a second 2-drop on turn 3 instead of a 3-drop. So, while Ironbeak Owl did go up to 3 mana, I suspected that as a 3-drop, there's still a possibility that it's going to get played. Comboing it later, it may make some things slightly more awkward, but I don't think it really hurts the card that much. It is a nerf. It's an okay nerf. It didn't destroy the card, so I'm okay with it. Now, another card that I'm pretty sure that everyone was expecting is a Leper Gnome. Leper Gnome just dominated the 1-drops. It had the strongest effect, it did the most damage. People would constantly play this, especially in aggro decks. Now, instead of a 1 mana 2/1, it is a 1 mana 1/1 with the same effect, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. I actually thought they would nerf this one slightly further. Seeing that it's a 1 mana 1/1 now, I think is alright, because it would, in the current meta, trade with 2-drops. Now it's not going to be trading with anything. The 2 damage to the enemy hero is really what made it the aggro card, though. However, going a little bit further into this one, if you're not able to trade into your opponent's 2-drop and deal that extra damage, then your opponent still has a minion on board that they can then trade into your faster, larger minions that you're playing as aggro. So it is a bit of a nerf. It may not make it quite an auto-include, but it's still a very strong card, especially in aggro decks. So I don't think that this really kills the card. Keeps it alive. I think it's alright. I wanted to see it get nerfed just slightly more. Maybe bringing the deal 2 damage down to 1 damage to the enemy hero. But I think it's still okay. Now, people expected that Big Game Hunter would get a nerf. But Big Game Hunter was originally there to nerf giants. So the Molten Giant got nerfed because it was a little bit too easy to play. You'd get down to 10 health, which typically it was safe enough that most classes couldn't just kill you outright. And you would be able to play 2 of these, taunt them up, and it is so difficult to get past that it won games. It just easily won games. So now instead of a 20 mana card, it's a 25 mana card. Same effect, same stats. So if you want to play for free, you have to go down to 5 health, and that is risky. So with this card, we can expect that it's going to cost 5 to 10 mana whenever people actually want to play it. I don't think people will play this as often now. They'll still play a little, but not as often. Now, another card that people were expecting to get nerfed is Knife Juggler. This, I'm a little bit disappointed in. Not because of the nerf, but because I don't think the nerf went far enough. So it's still a 2 mana card. It still has the same effect, but instead of a 3/2, it's now a 2/2. The biggest problem, though, is that it could be combined with other cards that summoned minions to do a lot of damage very easily. The body wasn't really the problem, it was the effect. If I was going to nerf it, I would say whenever you play a minion, deal 1 damage to an enemy, a random enemy. The biggest problem is when it combines with Unleash the Hounds. uh, Implosion, Muster for Battle. It would do a ton of damage. And so making it into a 2/2 doesn't really solve that problem. However, there is one thing that I'm considering with this. Since this is a 2/2 now, in Goblins vs. Gnomes, the meta shifted from having primarily 2/3s to 3/2s. Now that this is gone, I'm wondering if the meta is going to shift back to 2/3s for a 2-drop, because it'll be able to trade with the Knife Juggler and stay alive. The meta is slowing down, so having a 2/3 that's able to trade with more minions a little bit easily is more likely to see some play. So Knife Juggler, I wish it got nerfed just a little bit more, but it's something, I guess. Next one, though, I honestly think that Blizzard killed it. Arcane Golem. It is a 3-mana still. Instead of a 4/2, it's now a 4/4, but it loses charge. You still give your opponent a mana crystal, but it loses charge. All the cards that we've seen so far that have been previously released, anything that destroys your mana crystals, give your opponent mana crystals unless it had charge like this one, or benefited your opponent in some way, didn't really see play. Possibly in the arena this could see some play, maybe, but it's just such a large downside. If you want to have a 3-mana 4/4, the ogre that's there, I forget the name at the moment, but the ogre that's there will do just fine, even with a 50% chance to miss. I think that this card is dead. Now, going back to a couple last nerfs, Master Disguise. I don't think anyone is really that surprised here. While this card never really saw a lot of play, the design aspect really just limited Blizzard. Giving something permanent stealth made it so that it could be a constant problem, people couldn't deal with it, it just doesn't work. And so instead of a 4-mana 4/4 give a friendly minion stealth that's permanent, it's now give a friendly minion stealth until your next turn. I think it's fine. May still see some play with some of the cards that are being released in Whispers of the Old Gods, but it was a needed nerf. I'm perfectly fine with this one. Now, this is probably the most controversial nerf that has happened so far. Blade Flurry. This got nerfed hard. I will say that right now. It got nerfed hard. Instead of 2 mana, it's now 4 mana. And instead of destroy your weapon and deals damage to all enemies, it's now destroy your weapon and deal its damage to all enemy minions. So it got hit hard, and a lot of people think that it was hit too hard. I'm going to disagree. I think that this nerf is just fine. So, if it had just changed from hitting your opponent to hitting minions, and remained at the same cost, you would have I think I did the math, it was a 4 or 5 mana Flame Strike, essentially, that was spread out over 2 cards. If you had Preparation, it ended up being 2 mana, and you would typically be able to wipe out your entire enemy board. Changing it from attacking the enemy to changing to attacking minions is alright. I don't think anyone really had a problem with that. It takes away the potential 1-turn kill that rogues had. Since they nerfed Druid combo, Rogue combo needed to die as well. I'm sorry. Now, going up to 4 mana, I think it'll still see some play. Yes, the meta is slowing down. You still have Preparation. So rogues still have Preparation, which is why a lot of the rogue spells are a little bit more expensive than things that are fairly similar in other classes. It's sort of a two-edged sword. You get the cheaper spells, but your spells are going to be more expensive in general with Preparation. So I think it's still alright. I think that it will still see some play because rogues still need a board clear of some type. And I think this is okay. And that is it. That is all of the nerfs that have happened so far. Some people thought that other things would get nerfed. They obviously didn't. Some people think that the nerfs were too hard. Some of them think maybe not hard enough. I obviously am a little bit mixed, but all in all, I think that I am okay with the changes that have happened. So I'm excited. I want to see these changes happen now. I want Whispers of the Old Gods to be released now. I can't wait. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe. See you next time.